Okay, I'm live. Hello, everybody from beautiful Thailand, Pattaya. Question and answer period. I'm good to go. Fire away, please. Anxious to help out any way I can. First question, what exactly is the positivity quotient and why is it so important for manifestation? Yeah, it's basically everything. So this whole, I hear something in the background, Johnny, like a echo or something. It's very faint. So I'm going to answer this question. What exactly is the positivity quotient? This whole session is basically surrounding that question. Um, as I've always taught everybody, and I will continue to teach it, all my life, everything um depends on the frequency, the duration, and the intensity of or like the consistency of a given vibration. So when I say frequency duration, I don't mean the frequency, the vibratory frequency of something. What I mean there is the how often. That when I say frequency there, it means how often. Frequency, the duration, and the intensity. The intensity here means the quality of the signal, the strength and the quality, the clarity of the signal. Everything depends on that, on an individual level and on a collective level. Everything depends on that. Now, a positivity, so the mind and the brain, it's a very complex, um, easily perturbed system, especially for us, because we were born and raised into a world where there is tremendous, um, a massive amount of information bombarding you from everywhere. So let's imagine if we were a homesteader way back in the Old West in the 18th century or the 16th century, life is very simple. There's no internet and there's no radio and there, so you wake up, you get ready, go down, milk the cows, get some fresh milk, get some fresh eggs from the chicken, put a fire so you can cook. It's a very simple life. What does that do? Well, there's not very little distraction. So the mind of those people and the brain of those people is very clear and focused. They're not distracted, not all kinds of imagination and all kinds of different things. That's like people that are monks. When they live in a monastery, that's why monasteries are simple and austere, specifically to remove distraction. We're not born, we were born in a completely different world than them. now, nowadays, our attention span is some people's, some just a few seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. When they've done measurements on people like Tibetan Lamas are especially powerful people. They can focus their frontal cortex in a specific on a specific subject and lock it in for hours and hours and hours at a time. And their frontal cortex is enormously powerful, but ours isn't. How do we know that? Just try counting 10 breaths, 10 out breaths in a row. And if you make it to 10, you start back at 1. 99.9% of all of you cannot make it to 10. 99% of the whole population of the world can't make it to 10. And then they got to start back at 0. And over a long period of time, depending on the person and their practice, they might be able to make it to 10. And just making 10 breaths in a row is considered quite powerful in today's world. So the positivity quotient is functional neuroscience, which says if we have 3 conscious, so it means you're aware of 3 positives that make you feel secure, that make you feel happy, that represent abundance and safety for you, then if this is a 3-to-1, so this is a fundamental baseline positivity quotient that you have to have. You have 3 of those conscious positives to any 1 negative. If you have that positivity quotient consistently, the amygdala in your brain will not light up. It will not dump cortisol into your system. Your personal vibration will not go down, and you will not lose the necessary vibration to give you a good life, to keep you on the positive side of the line. But the secret to all of this stuff is the consistency. So I said frequency, duration, and the intensity. The duration needs to be for the positivity quotient of 3-to-1 to work. It's got to be the absolute majority of the whole day, or the whole day is the best way to do it. Because once the amygdala, if something happens, let's say you're feeling really good, and then you get an email, and it's if you're in the stock market or something, or if you're in that cryptocurrency stuff, let's say you just lost your fortune or whatever, and that hit lights the amygdala up because it shatters a 3-to-1 ratio. 3-to-1 ratio is not strong enough to handle that kind of shock. Or let's say your wife was just crushed in a head-on collision, and you just found out. A 3-to-1 ratio can't keep you on the positive side of the line. If she gets killed like that, when you have a shock like that, if you have a 10-to-1 ratio or a 9-to-1 ratio, maybe even an 8, you might dip, from the shock, and then you'll be able to rise back up. But if you don't, the amygdala will dump all the cortisol. Your system will crash. When it crashes, the universe, remember, the universe at any given micro nano moment is only saying okay. So it's endorsing 24/7. There are no gaps with the universe at all. So the degree and the strength of the consistency of your positivity quotient is going to determine your abundance, your health, your happiness, everything. That is why the law of attraction, the way they explain it, doesn't work. They only give you a part of the equation, and it all sounds like very nice. And I used to apply that all the time for 30 years, and it never worked. But I didn't know about the positivity quotient, and they never taught that stuff. That information comes through the neurologist Mark Waldman, who is employed by John Assaraf, and John Assaraf is the big business leader. He runs a program called NeuroGym, and I studied NeuroGym for years, years and years and years, and that's when I first heard the term positivity quotient. And then from my knowledge of the quantum field, the brain, the mind, and everything, it's just a great term to mathematically understand what you have to have in place. This is why when you see someone like Joe Dispenza, most people fail flat, because his meditations are profound, but they require a tremendous amount of the intensity, qualitative, and you have to be able to do it all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. And those meditations take a lot of time, require special circumstances or special environment, and it's hard to do that for most people. Very, very difficult to sustain that. So with depth healing, the difference is I remove for you in the sessions, collectives or privates, the interference that blocks you from being able to live in that state. Because all that happens is you wake up in the morning and you might see a real pretty sunrise, and you're in a great mood. And then what do? You turn on your phone or your computer, and that triggers negative programming. The images you see or whatever you read triggers all manner of things that you don't know, and your field fluctuates like this. It happens to me too. I can go on ever since the divine opened my heart up. I can go on the social media platform or even movies or music, and 1 minute I say I'm really happy, then I hear a particular love song or something. It reminds me of somebody, and the next moment I'm crying, and field is going like this. So what's the universe doing? The universe is saying, okay, and this is what you get. And in that fluctuation, you will not achieve your dream board. Just like if you try to boil water and you take the pot on and off the fire, the water won't boil. It's got to have the consistency. Water will boil even at a very, very low heat, as long as it stays there long enough. So that is the trick. That's what a positivity quotient is like a functional measurement that is very accurate. So let's say you go on the computer, and if you have a 3-to-1 ratio capability, and you see some bad news or something, you are able. It doesn't just automatically happen. Remember, I said you have to have it conscious. If you get something that stresses you, you consciously reframe to some 3 things that immediately that you have that make you feel secure, happy, and abundant. And that will cancel the one. It'll keep you on this side. Now, examples of people with very high positivity quotients are people like Tony Robbins, Donald Trump, before presidency as a real estate person. He's very famous for the power of his positivity quotient. demonstrated over and over and over again. Any of the great ultra rich, powerful people, they have very high positivity quotients. The higher the quotient, and when I say the quotient means they sustain it, and because they have that really high, no matter what happens, they never go down. They don't go down. The universe is always endorsing the universe because they're consistent. The universe endorses them at that consistent level, and their wealth and happiness and health will reflect that level. Okay, let me take another one here. I heard somebody once say that having success is a matter of how fast you can go back to that base. Yeah, what I just said, you have to be able to reframe. If you get a dip, you take a hit, and it makes you stressed, worried, really, really sad, something. The sooner you can reframe and come back up, the better. That's why it's great to get in to see me as right away. If you can get in right away, because remember, if something scares you or threatens you or worries you, that's a trick of the mind and the programming in your subconscious. How do we know that? Because when you have a person who is enlightened and the small self has been disengaged from mind, they don't experience any drops from anything at all, including imminent death. It doesn't mean anything. So if something scares you or shocks you or makes you angry or worries you or anything, that is in your subconscious strata. The worry or the upset or the fear is letting you know it's there. You see me and I remove it. And that's how you grow. That's how I grew. And I've grown. I'm like a mountain compared to where I was. And I got several miles to go just to reach the clouds yet. There's no end to this. But does that, I hope that makes sense to you. Yeah, that's right, Jeanette. What is the next question, please? Does security always come first? Does security always come first? Well, if you don't have a sense of and a feeling that you're secure somehow, unless you're fully enlightened, I have a very hard time imagining someone being able to attract any form of abundance whatsoever. Now, I've been completely homeless and penniless, but my security came from my bond with the divine. So the divine never leave me, and that was the source of security. And that security is enough. And then if once enlightenment is bestowed and so forth, that's another whole level. But does that answer your question? How would I go about getting my children on the positive side of things? How would I encourage more positivity? That's a beautiful question. So what you do is always showing them, let's say that something happens and that upsets them or frightens them, you reframe it for them so they can see it like this. Because of that, I have this, or because of that, we have this. And then through the day, you're always bringing to their attention how this is good, that's good, this is lovely, we have this, we have that, and you are not bringing any attention as the mother to what is not there, what you're lacking, what you can't afford. Um, you let them know, uh, we're going to get that. We just won't get it right now. We're going to wait. Things like that, so they don't hear, we can't afford that. You can't have that. We don't have money for that. Don't word it that way. It's how you frame it and see it is how they're going to frame it, see it, and record it. That's what always gave me so much lack consciousness and cognitive dissonance for money. Because although we were well off, but mom and dad, the wording was, we can't afford that, or that's the, and they made it look, the way I recorded it was negatively. See, does that make sense? How does this collective build upon the teachings of the? It's nothing but the adversity mindset. So how does it build on it? An adversity mindset means your biggest asset to adversity is a high positivity quotient. If you get hit with adversity and you don't have a sustainable, a cultivated positivity quotient, you lose. You go down. The guys that go into Auschwitz in the Nazi concentration camps and they don't have a positive, their positivity quotient will be um, getting home to their wife, getting home to see their kids, uh, hope. They got to have a positivity quotient of a hope and a dream that sustains them. Otherwise, they're dead and gone. So that's a real easy question to answer. No positivity quotient, no cigar. You're dead and gone. Your history. How does this collect? Okay. How does this? So that does that? Do you understand the answer there? It's as simple as that. It couldn't get more simple than that. Okay. Otherwise, your own mind and brain already defeated you. You're dead and gone. Next, fire away, folks. How do I start applying the 3-to-1 positivity in real time? Okay, now I like this question. How do I apply it? Okay, so first is when you first wake up in the morning, right? So I just did all mine before I come here to see you guys. You wake up every single day. You set that positivity quotient with the plan for the day. And you, like Tony Robbins will say, he'll take 5 minutes or 10 minutes and he'll list 3 things that he's really grateful for. And he feels it. So he ramps up, he's ramping up with feeling the vibratory frequency within his body and his mind and spirit and his heart with the things he's grateful for. And what happens is the research in neurology shows when you do that, you preset the real dopamine hit that is intrinsic to yourself. See, when people wake up and they go right to the internet or the surfing or whatever, they get dopamine hits too, but it's like you could consider it sort of like a synthetic dopamine. And what it does is the studies show it like addicts them for the rest of the day to the social media and the images and that stuff. You want to wake up and make your own. Um, it's like mastery of yourself, learning to use your own brain as an instrument for you, and generating your happiness and your drive and a sense of deep gratitude through yourself. And in that process, see, in order to uh, feel gratitude for three things, you have to become conscious of the three things. Remember when I said at the beginning of this session, positivity quotient means it's conscious. So our part in this is to be aware and actively apply reframing and focused attention. That's what I did when I left my ex-wife and moved to Thailand. And all of a sudden, life went from complex to nice and simple. I shifted all my attention to wealth consciousness. So I was creating the positivity quotient in high duration, high intensity, consistently. And boy, it worked like a dream. That's how you do it. You consciously apply. Anytime something stresses you or there's a negative news, negative information, negative feeling, try to reframe over and remind yourself of those three things you're grateful for. Or even better, take 4, 5, 6, 7 things that you're grateful for. What are some quick positivity activators I can use when I feel myself slipping into the fear? One of the ones that I like, that I was taught by George Goodhart Jr. way back in my 20s, is to look up. Look up at the sky. Look up into the trees. Look up. The research shows if your head, now this is a physiologic for the neck, if your head tilts forward in deflection, the brain freeze frames time. It's a function of the physiology for the brain, but it freeze frames time to dwell on problems. So whenever you see advanced cultural high consciousness activities from various countries, you'll always see that their head is up. The neck is in extension. Why? Because then your brain will free flow with events in the present moment. Forward, it freeze frames time to dwell on problems or negatives. And also if you're looking down at the floor, your spirit and everything goes down. So looking up will help to break when you're feeling bad. Number 2, feel your body. And one of the nice ways to do that is take 1 to 3 conscious breaths. Feel yourself as an alive being, because we can always feel grateful that we're alive, and our body is, hopefully you're not, whoever's listening, you're not in severe pain or something like that. And then pick something to top that off that really makes you happy. Someone's smile that really makes you happy. Somebody that loves you, like your kids love you. Those kind of things. But the looking up and breathing is grounding yourself in where you are in the moment, and it elevates your psychology. That's my And then, of course, if you have time and you're in a place where you can do it, you take a piece of paper and a pen and you write. This is good to do in the morning. You write down what you're grateful for. So you write it, you speak it, you see it, and you feel it. And that will give you the intensity and the qualitative power. What is the best thing to do when we fall under the pressure of negativity? So, Sheba, that's what I was just telling you, sweetheart. If you feel pressure, what do you do when you feel pressure? You put a hole to let the pressure out. So you take a pen and paper and you start writing all the things that are good. You look up, you breathe, physically put a smile on your face. I still do that because I trained my whole life to make my face look hard as a martial artist, you know. Because when you're a martial artist, you don't want to be smiling all the time, look like the village idiot, right? You want to look tough. But the problem with that, there's a lot of problems with that. So when the moment you smile, because there's something like 26 muscles involved in smile, your brain releases endorphins, happy chemicals, just the moment you smile. It's like psychology 101, and it'll lift your spirits right up. How much time per day should we be dedicated to rewiring? I love this question. So he's saying how much time. So the way you do this, um, it's a there's two wings to this. Most people fail. 99% of the population fail because they only do one wing. Uh, they'll think of themselves as doing a meditation practice. So every day they do an hour of meditation, like Vipassana, or they'll do a gratitude journal every day. And they think that's going to do it. No. So you can take a half hour or an hour or 15 minutes, and it's a concentrated setting like I'm telling you to do in the morning. And that's one wing. The other wing is actively living moment to moment, all day, every day. It's a habit of reframing and um, focused attention on what is going nice and what you do have, not on what you don't have or what you can't do. And if anything negative comes or down, you reframe, you activate that quotient. The more, the better, and it becomes like this fast. It's a habit of mind. One of the ways to cultivate that habit of mind that I did back in 2015 when I first came to Thailand, and I was living up in the mountains in this little village called Purua. What you do is every little thing you accomplish, from washing the dishes to making little sticky notes to organize your day, to driving down the road, you acknowledge what you just accomplished. Doesn't matter how small it is. And because you acknowledge that, like that one great Marine commander who goes on, he's on Instagram, and he'll say, you want to be a great soldier, you want to be a great warrior, make your bed in the morning. And then he lists all the things that comes off of that little act of waking up and making your bed. It all, as Jim Rohn said, it all matters because it's all forming your frequency. When you see, you won't see anybody around here, but if you were like me and you had the honor of meeting actual masters, not these these puppets, they call themselves masters, but a real master. Um, what makes them a master is their field is absolutely there's no gap. The greater the master, the more intense it is. So they're like a burning sun. I've met masters like that. I studied under them. It's a completely different ballgame. But that's forget about master. Just work on making a nice positivity quotient that works. How will you know if things work? That it's working. Everything changes. Abundance comes, health comes, friends come, everything. Uh, that's why you come to see me, and we remove the programming that is causing the problems in the first place. We remove the triggers that causes the upset in the first place. And the more those things are removed, the higher you rise. The higher you rise, the view is completely different. Bhagavan always talks about the view of a worm crawling on the ground and the view of a bird soaring high in the sky. Very, very different. And then from a bird's view to, say, being in a rocket way up in space looking back down at the earth, the view is different. It's all by consciousness. What happens in the brain when we successfully reframe stress with positive thoughts? Beautiful question. So what happens is this. There's a lot of stuff that happens, but basically the educated brain, which is right here, the frontal cortex, it starts to light up. So you know when you have those lights and it has a dimmer switch? So when you start reframing, so if you're in a good mood, everything's okay, and then you go to your job and the boss treats you like a peon. So the dimmer switch, it dims way down. The frontal cortex, the light there dims way down because you're insulted, it's depressing, you're angry. So the amygdala lights up, the cortisol starts to come in. The reason the light goes down is because the blood is leaving the front of the cortex from the stress, and it's going to the reptilian um, reactive program brain. So you don't think as clearly or as strongly. Your focus is next to nothing. Then if you reframe, you start turning the light up again. You're like dialing the light back up. The problem with us, why we don't engage the full law of attraction, is because the light's going on and off. It's relative to everything. Someone like the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama was. I attended one of his lectures online one time about meditation, and he was explaining single pointed focus. And he said, until a monk has single pointed focus, he can't do anything. So the first, and it might take 20, 30 years, but they have to be able to lock their mind and focus steady. It's got to be steady. You know, it's a very interesting thing. I was reading some research. Um, all meditation methods, they hold the head up, and I explained why, but the eye quadrant is down. Very, very interesting. When they found out recently, I don't know how recent, when the eye quadrant is down, head is up, and especially if they look at a fire, at a flame, the our stem cells light up and turn on. Yeah. If the eyes come up, the stem cells do not engage. Very, very interesting. But I hope I answered that question for you. Can this type of mindset reprogramming help clear trauma or karma? No, no. Well, let me think on this for 1 second. Karmic block. So recently, I was taught on a higher level of understanding for this. So um, the subconscious programming at 40 million bits of information a second until the age of 7 does not belong to us. And it is the foundational bedrock for everything and anything that goes on. That's the foundational bedrock. None of it belongs to you. Uh, Reframing, it will never touch any of that at all. Depth healing is designed to do that. Real good hypnotherapy can do that. And of course, the divine will do that. That area. That's why depth healing is so special. The subconscious mind from the age of 7 to whatever age you are now responds to repetition. It learns or is programmed or changed by repetition. So from the age of 7 in the 5th program till the day you die, if you are repeating a mantra, if you are doing subliminal programming and so forth, you can reprogram those things and you can insert that or change, but it will not touch the deep software from the age of 7 going backwards, which is the deterministic software. That's my area. That's the divine's area. Or if you get somebody that is real good hypnotherapist, that's what they do. They go into those programs. Okay. Can brain plasticity really help someone shift? Yeah, of course. What is brain plasticity? What they mean by that is if neural nets are like a bunch of spider webs. And let me see, I believe there are 100 trillion, I believe it's 100 trillion neural connections in a brain, human brain. I believe I've got that number correct. Now, the trick with those neurons is they can move. They move. When you see me in a session and you hear me do that, I'm taking neurons and separating them. That's what and that's with the special mantra that I'm empowered with for the destructive interference wave through Tibet, and the neuron will separate. Now, before it separates, I might have to take a lot of entanglements that are holding those two together. And when all the entanglements are successfully removed, then the final removal will separate them, and then they can move. So the neural sentence that says neurons that fire together wire together. So let's say you meet a lover, you meet a girl, or the girl meets a guy, and you really have chemistry and you like each other. So this is day 1. So neurons they sort of like start to line up a little bit, and then you see her again the next day, and the neuron gets a little closer. Then you make love to her, and they come in, and then you see her again, you make love to her. You see her again, you make love to her, and they stay together. And then one day you find her with 4 guys, and you get a broken heart, and that's trying to pull apart. And if you can get yourself away from her long enough, then they'll stay apart, and you'll find the next person. That's what's going on all the time. That's just neuroplasticity. So that's one of the beautiful things about the brain. That's why programs can be changed. If the neural nets, if you didn't have plasticity in the brain, you cannot change it. Okay? Are there any supplements one can take for brain? Let me think about that. The question is, are there any supplements for brain plasticity? Well, everything that supports brain health, right? So lots of omega-3 with high DHA. The DHA quotient has got to be the highest, and that is what is going to safeguard inflammation in the brain. And things like ginkgo biloba and lion's mane, ganoderma. There are with the most advanced companies in the world, like NutriSpec, have an entire plethora of superlative supplements that are very, very specially designed for neurotransmitter production. What is that called? Mucopurines helps to limit or prevent tremors that are caused from neurotransmitter depletion. So any of those kind of supplements, anything and everything that supports brain health is very, very, very important. And then, of course, sleep. You have to have enough sleep, because the brain, the little vacuum cleaners that run all over the brain are called glial cells. They come out at night, and they eat up the waste that is created, metabolic waste that's created like excrement in the brain when we're when we're thinking all day, and then you need to have that all cleaned out of there, or you'll get Alzheimer's disease and dementia and all those different things. Okay, does that help? Last question, time's up. Who has the last? Okay, is there a divine component involved in activating abundance? Or is it, I love this question. Is there a divine component involved in activating abundance, or is it purely mental, emotional? So please listen very carefully. This is a beautiful question. There is nothing at all that is purely mental, emotional. It's all by divine. No divine, no nothing at all. That's why when you die, you go in front of the great compassionate light. No exceptions. You go in, and that's been accepted by all cultures, from a pygmy to an Eskimo to you name it. You go in front of the great compassionate light, whatever version they want, and then there's nothing pure at all. Your heart is the home of the divine. No divine, no heart. No divine, no consciousness. No consciousness, no existence. And everything's conscious. So that's a beautiful finishing question. That's why your bond with the divine is the most important thing there is. Okay, I think I got to go. Thank you very much, guys. Love you. God bless.